Hey, and welcome back to the Fully Booked Photographer podcast. And oh my gosh, 2 podcasts in a row with the Fab Four all together. How great is that? If you are watching on YouTube, I do apologize. The team asked me to put the mic closer to my mouth so I sounded not far away. And I know it's getting in the way of my beautiful face, but you can't have everything. So, Jonathan, I believe you are going to host today's podcast.
Yes, this is super exciting. More exciting than ever before. This is incredible because we finally have the solution. You see, I'm sure some of our listeners have heard about the idea of a silver bullet. A silver bullet is something that, gets you instant success in the fastest way possible. And that's what we're going to talk about. So the best way to get success in the fastest way possible, our silver bullet method for you, is to photograph as many genres as possible.
No, don't do that, Jonathan. You've more chance of having a successful business by just going out and buying a lottery ticket.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You see, this comes up time and time again, and we see it in the membership even of Inner Hive members, and when you see them looking for advice on photographing, say, dogs today, and the next day they're photographing wizards, and the next day they're doing families, and the next day they're doing first birthdays, and you are kind of like, why are you doing that? So Ronan, talk to us about, why do you think that a lot of photographers, and this is something we see outside of our group, like other educators have told you they see the same with their clients, and we see it all the time in the industry. Why are photographers so obsessed with trying to photograph as many things as possible?
I think it comes down to one word. But before I tell you what that one word is, Jonathan, what else can I do? Like, I need to have 8 clients a month, right? And I'm only living in a town of a couple 100,000 people. Like, surely I have to photograph everything to get 8 clients a month. Surely I just have to do that when there's only 500,000 people in my town.
That town grew exponentially then, from 200,000 to 500,000. That town's in some serious growth.
Well, do you know why I chose those 2 figures, Brad?
Go on, Ronan.
I chose those 2 figures on purpose to see one who was awake, and it's obvious Jeanine was not awake because she didn't pick up on it. And the second...
It's loud in here. I have my microphone on mute so you can't hear the background noise. Don't be digging at me.
And the second reason is that's what we recommend for an available audience size, right? Between 200k and 500k. So there was a method in my madness. But so to go back and answer Jonathan's real question, Jonathan, your question was what's driving it? I think it's fear. I think it's fear that we think sometimes that we need to be everything to everybody. And that's the secret to success, when the exact opposite is actually true. So, I've talked about this a lot. We've written about this a lot. We've talked as a group about this a lot. We've talked to our members a lot about this. And it's something that I christened the spray and pray curse, right? And the idea that everyone is your client causes what we call headless chicken syndrome. We're full of it today. Headless chicken syndrome. And what does that mean? It means that if you try be everything to everybody, you're nobody to nobody. And the principle of creating a successful business is that you know who your ideal client is. And why do you need to know who your ideal client is? Because different groups of people have different problems they need solved, and they need to be solved a certain way. So when you discover who you want to serve, and why that's important to you, and then you go about identifying who that client is, and then it allows you to market and speak to those people. And it means that as you do that, you get to know those clients even better and better and better. And you discover strategies to over-deliver for them. And what happens when you over-deliver for somebody? They tell other people who are like them how great you are and the problem you solve for them. So it's And I know it's difficult. It's difficult, especially when you don't yet have a business, right? And you need to earn money, right? And you're trying to solve Maslow's hierarchy of needs of provide food and water and shelter, for you and those who are close to you. It is a difficult thing to do. It's a brave decision when your head is telling you the wrong thing, that you need to spray and pray to make that money, that you need to actually just stop and figure out a way as to who do you want to serve, how are you going to serve them, how are you going to over deliver for them. And that's when people will invest more with you, when you make a real difference to them. But it's fear and it's hard.
Yeah, and I think that it's important for us to clarify that yes, there are exceptional circumstances where, let's say, you just photograph boudoir, for instance. You may actually be living in a location where you need like 10 sessions a week, and it's just not possible to do 10 sessions a week over 50 weeks. That does happen, but most of the time that's an exception rather than the rule. So I want to come quickly to Brad, and I want to ask Brad, I know your studio evolved massively from 2019 to 2021 to now. What genres of photography did you used to photograph before you began that transition?
Wonderful question, John. So we photographed everything. So families, babies. So that's newborns, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, first birthday cake smashers, pets, boudoir. I'm trying to think of anything else. Essentially, most things that like a social portrait studio would photograph is what we did.
And why did you photograph so many genres? Surely that must have been stressful, trying to manage the studio with all of these different sessions coming in. It's like, oh my God, what's this session? What's that session? You must have had to be, really great operationally. But what was the real deep reason behind why you were photographing so many genres and types of sessions?
See, that's a great question. And when Ronan was talking about fear, I might disagree with you, Ronan. I think there's a better word that can describe it. I think the word's desperation. I've been thinking about this while we're talking. I was thinking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, because desperation fits at every level of that. You can be desperate when you're struggling to actually provide for your physiological needs, for your food, your rent, but you can also be desperate when you need self-esteem. And you can also be desperate when you want that self-actualization from your peers. You can be desperate all upon that period, all upon that pyramid. So then I think humans were always kind of desperate at some point, and we're all looking for silver bullets. And desperation doesn't mean, it's a scale of 1 to 10. You don't need to be in a state of 10 out of 10 every time for you to go searching out for these silver bullets. But for us, the reason why we photographed a lot was because that's what we knew. That's what we knew. We didn't know an alternative. To grow a business, we thought we had to photograph lots of different session types. It was probably a bit in desperation and fear that we didn't want to say no to a client, that no, we're not going to do that, because we didn't want anybody else to do that and then take that work from us, or that perceived work from us. So then we photographed everything. I think that plays into why a lot of photographers photograph lots of genres. As it sits right now, like 90% of what we photograph is boudoir.
Hold on, you're skipping ahead. I was going to ask you that question. I was going to ask you that question because I want you to give us some specific answers. I want you to talk more about. Okay, so 90% now is boudoir.
Yep.
Why? What drove that decision?
So what drove that decision was the fact financially we get a better higher average order from our boudoir clients. And the reason financially we do that is because we actually deliver to them better than we can deliver to any of our other clients. And the reason we do that is because it sits in well with my mother and father's personal why, about why they enjoy photographing boudoir, about the greater emotional impact or just impact they can have in somebody's life in general is through boudoir photography. And don't get me wrong, we've done that in everything we've ever photographed. That's not like you can't have an emotional impact on somebody when you're photographing the dog, when you're photographing the family, you're photographing the first birthday cake smash. It's just what clicks and what gelled with us the most is why it's now boudoir.
So I think what you're saying is that potentially before it was about getting as many sessions into the studio as possible, being as busy as possible, photographing all the different genres for the sake of photographing. But
Yeah,
now it's more about, it kind of feels like you at a deeper level understand who you serve, why you serve them, and how to serve them.
yes. And it also aligns with everybody else in the team in what they want to photograph as well, and what they want to spend their time in doing.
Yeah, makes sense. But I'm going to come back in a second because there's a really interesting topic I want to touch on. But now I want to come to Jeanine. Jeanine, if I think about it, I know very little about your past in terms of the studio. When you first started, what were you photographing? I know you've been in business a long time now, 15 years or however many years, but
Yeah, she started the business when she was 7, just in case people were wondering.
Exactly.
yes.
So when I first started back in Atlanta, I photographed weddings, and I worked with another photographer and photographed weddings. When I moved to Florida, I knew I never wanted to photograph another wedding ever. And so I looked at, after I did my stint of working in the industry for Art Leather and GNP as their marketing and salesperson, I came back into the industry and I had to look at what I wanted to photograph because I knew I didn't want to photograph weddings. So I kind of like Brad's dad, I guess, in a way. I started with a lot of everything. I did families, I did babies, I did a baby plan. There was a guy in the US at that time who was selling the baby plan program that I subscribed to. And so I did that. And that's the baby plan really is what kind of with direct mail is what kind of launched the studio here 17 years ago. So it was a baby plan and the families that came with them. And then that kind of grew into the themes as those babies were getting older. So my studio kind of progressed to where it is now based upon the age of my kids and what I was kind of growing along doing with them, as well as how I figured out what I enjoyed photographing versus what I didn't enjoy photographing, and then what kind of fit with my why over the years. So, but I did start off photographing anything. Like I was like, you want a picture? I'll take it. And I opened down here because, I didn't know what else to do. And I was trying to figure out what I enjoyed photographing. I didn't really know. I just knew I didn't want to photograph weddings ever again. Ever.
And I know. Well, yeah, we hear that a lot, right? And you made an important point that it aligns with your why. And I know Ronan did a full podcast with you early on your why in your business. But I feel like now you photograph probably, you have one consistent, what we call evergreen genre, which is first birthdays, right?
Yes.
And then you sprinkle, because you love doing your teams, like your wizards and your Think Pink, you sprinkle those on top.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So like when people ask what I photograph, I usually say babies and the babies and children, the families that come along with them. We get families by default, and I would never say no to a family because I do believe in the importance of a family portrait, but it comes from the babies and the children we photograph. And so can you hear everybody?
We can hear the session going on behind. Yeah, it's great.
They're cheering for me. No, I'm just kidding. They're cheering for the baby, who apparently is doing very well with her smash cake. So, anyways, the themes we kind of sprinkle in, I'll tell you, it's been such an interesting shift. And this is the power of an evergreen when you really focus. So we've gotten this first birthday session so honed in with our marketing, our client journey, connecting with our clients, this is going to shock you, and Ronan, please don't fall out of your chair. But this year in November, for our weekends, our afternoons are not blocked off with, our mornings are not blocked off with Christmas sessions. We left all of our mornings open to do first birthday sessions, and we're only doing our themed sessions in the afternoon. Because there's no way I cannot capture these first birthdays for kids having birthdays in November and December. That wouldn't go along with what we're doing. And those babies deserve to have their first birthdays, captured just as much as people born January through October. So so I had to make a switch again this year because our first birthdays are so now a core of who we are and what we do. If I didn't leave room for them, then it would not work with what we're doing now. Does that make sense? So we're scaling back Christmas a little bit so that we can maintain our first birthdays year round.
Jonathan, I have something mad for you.
Go on.
I woke up this morning, right? I think it's related. I think it's related to this spray and pray curse, right? But the way we debate quite often, and we tell our members, that you shouldn't be called photographers. That when you do this right, you're difference makers, not photographers. And I started to think and say cause and effect, like why are photographers consumed with photography, right? And I said, how come a dentist is not called a teetist?
Did you say teetist?
Teetist, yeah. Because they work on your teeth, right? And your smile. So why are they... So is the fact that they're called dentists, which is different than what they do, right? And the end result that they create. Is that a reason why they don't try and also become eye testers and ear testers and everything else? In the same way as a carpenter is not called a woodist, right? Or a cabinist. And I was wondering, is the fact that photographers and what they do is called photography and the result is a photograph, right? Is it actually creating those neural paths in their brains to think it's all about the photograph?
Oh dear, we're not going down that rabbit hole. That is some crazy dreams. But Brad wants to comment on it quickly because
he says quickly. So I just want to make sure that I'm aligned with you here, because that dentist thing was so interesting. But I think I've got you. So we say that photographers should be difference makers because that's more aligned to what we're actually truly doing. But then, are you going down a new thought process that depending on the genre and who your client is, we should have a unique name to that? So my name for boudoir could be, I don't even know, but it's based on the end result. But Jeanine's for first birthdays would be something completely different. We're both difference makers, but then we've got a separate title to sit underneath.
Possibly, but it was the step before that. You've gone ahead of my thought process on this. It was more about cause and effect. So why do we seem to, as photographers, get totally convinced that it's about the photograph we create artistically as a photograph? Because the definition of a photograph is an image created with light, right? So because we are photographers who take photographs and our clients buy photographs, or we think they do and they don't, that because the names are related to each other so closely, that we're wired neurally to think that it's all about the photography and the photograph as a photographer. While a dentist is not called a teetist or a smilist or something that they do, right? Or a fillingist or what, and a carpenter is not called, if I make cabinets, a cabinist,
I think you're overthinking it. I think you should be a philosopher rather than
a thinker of philosophy.
No, the dentist things, I think there's a better example, but I don't know what the example is. But I think there exists a better example. But I see where you're going with cause and effect, because we're called photographers, then everything centers around that word. It gives immense power to that word.
And then as spray and pray curse, we think because we're photographers that we should be photographing everything.
Maybe, but that's very deep, and we'll
I don't
never
think
know the
it's that
answer to it.
deep. I don't think it's
Well,
that deep.
I disagree, because like a surgeon performs surgery. They're specialists. It's I think it's completely overthinking, but that's what I want to come on to next. I want to come on to this idea of trends.
But wait, but before you do that, right? To become a surgeon, not everybody can do that. Anybody could be a photographer. Anybody. I'm a photographer, even though I don't. I take pictures with my phone, which creates a photograph using light. So I'll end there, Jonathan. You can take. Just take the mic away from me and Ronan.
Yeah, Jeanine, what has gotten into these two? They love their deep philosophical
I know. What was in their coffee today?
I don't know. Well, Ronan's just recovered from COVID, so maybe
that explains. Yes, Ronan has COVID brain. Not sure what's going on with Brad.
Maybe Brad just has permanent COVID brain or something. I don't know. I'm only checking. Right, so I want to come on to this. We're talking about spray and pray. We're essentially talking about being a generalist versus a specialist. And Brad and Jeanine have told us so far that they, specialize in an area because that's linked to their why, and it's linked to the ideal client that they serve. So and Jeanine told us that she's even cutting down on some of the sprinkles on top of the team sessions, because she's built an entire business just photographing first birthday. It's a very successful business. Brad's built an entire business primarily photographing boudoir. So I want to come to Ronan and I want to ask him a question about trends, because I've seen this loosely in the UK photographic industry, where you'll see like a lab sponsor photographer that is putting on a workshop about photographing a specific genre. And all of these photographers, I think Brad will have some great stories in this too, and possibly Jeanine, not sure about the US side of things, but these photographers flock to this workshop. And at the end of the workshop, they're like, yay, I'm going to photograph this genre because I see how much money that photographer's making, and I'm going to do it too, and yeah, let's do it. Ronan, talk to us about this idea of trends in the industry and selecting a genre potentially for the wrong reasons.
Well, you said it in your question, because you said they go to see the latest trend in photographer who claims in big letters that they make loads and loads of money from it. And therefore, they then think that there's loads and loads of money to be made, and money is the reason why they decide to do it. And we all accept that we need money to fulfill, to provide for our families, to provide for ourselves, to provide what we need materially, right? But money is a poor motivator, and it's been proven over and over and over again to be a poor motivator. And business is difficult, and business requires consistency, and business requires resilience, and business requires you to do things when you don't want to do them to be successful. And money is not a good motivator to make you do those. However, when you do something where it goes beyond money and where you have a purpose, like in Brad's instance, like his business and the people in his business see every single day the difference their work makes to their clients, not just tomorrow, but today and forever. And that the women who go through Brad's studio, where they use the art and science of photography to create photographs that instill confidence every single day in their clients, right? When you are passionate about doing that for people and providing that service to people, right? If you can't get out of bed, you'll find a way to get out of bed because you have a client coming in today and they need you to be there and they need you to help them transform and regain their confidence and be reminded through your work today, tomorrow, forever, that they are beautiful, that they are confident, that they are strong, that they deserve to be loved and they deserve to love. That's motivation. That's consistency. And when you have that and you truly believe it and you understand why you are on this planet, is not just to take photographs of everything and everyone, but to take photographs that mean something and do a job today, tomorrow, forever. That's when things click in together. And as Simon Sinek says, and you don't believe me in this because this is not, I did not come up with this. But if you, for any of you who've seen Simon Sinek and watched Simon Sinek, and he talks about make a difference to people and the result, which is money, will look after itself. It will. It will look after itself if you make a difference because people will spend with you up to the value you deliver them. And all you have to do to ensure that happens is that you align your price list, right, and your investment guide, that when you make that difference, that they're investing at a level that delivers you the financial result you want. And it sounds complicated, but it's not as complicated as it might sound. But if you are going to consistently spray and pray, you will never get to that level of speciality where you can truly make a difference to your client today, tomorrow, and forever. The end result of that is that they will never invest up to the level that you need to have a sustainable business. And instead you end up like a headless chicken going around photographing Tom, Dick, and Harry, I was going to say, everyone for any reason, hoping that they're going to see some value and pay you some money.
Yeah, and I want to bring it back to what we opened with, talking about silver bullets. And a lot of it is, as you said, fear, and as Brad said, desperation. And they're searching for a silver bullet. Oh my God, I see someone mentioned they're doing really well with pets. I'm going to photograph pets. And one thing Jeanine mentioned was she said the word dialed in. She used the phrase dialed in. And Jeanine, your work on your first birthday marketing campaigns, you said your marketing, your sales process, your whole client journey, that's living, that's breathing. You're working on that consistently and constantly. But the first time you tried to market it, say even with Facebook ads, it didn't it wasn't perfect, right?
No, it wasn't. And because you were working on it with me, it wasn't perfect. And I'll tell you, I do believe part of the reason why was it wasn't our focus. It was just a piece of the puzzle. And we were just advertising to try and get in a couple of sessions. It wasn't something that we fully designed the studio around. And so I think because of that, because we didn't focus on it, really, it was that after one of the meetings that the four of us had, when I had that epiphany on the plane ride and I scribbled out this whole thing of what I wanted to do to change it and really make it a focus in the business. When we made that focus, when we made that change is when everything happened. And when we really were able to start, people started to get to know us as First Birthday, but even still, half the people that we book never have heard of us. It's just that we start coming across everything we post, everything on our website, everything on our Instagram, everything on our Facebook, everything about us in general now is about just themes and first birthdays. And so it creates this unified vortex of bringing people in. But what I wanted to say too is that Ronan, what you were saying and what Jonathan asked, I just want to add this in because Brad has a very strong why. And when speakers go out and speak and they talk about their why, they're very convincing And people will listen to this and be like, oh my gosh, yes, you can make a difference in a woman's life by giving her this transformational experience. And as photographers, I know a lot of times you think it's about the money, but most photographers do want to make a difference. And they're just trying to figure out where to make that difference. And they hear someone speak about success. They speak about their story. And most speakers go out there and talk about something that's transformational that happened with them. And that's why now they photograph this. And so they speak very well. And as an attendee listening to these seminars, you're like, oh my gosh, yes, transforming a woman's life is amazing. Their why speaks to me. I need to do this. And then they get back home and their intentions are good. They want to make a difference in people's lives because they can see how it can be done. But then as they start working on it, they realize it doesn't really, if they're successful, great. If it inspired them and it does fit with their why, magic can happen. And now they can come back and transform their studio. But oftentimes you come back and you're now trying to implement someone else's why in your business. And the two don't align. And that's when things don't work. And I think that's what we see end up happening in the industry so often. And I don't think it's necessarily a play for money. I do think it's because photographers want their art to matter and they want to make a difference in people's lives. They just don't realize it. And they get sucked in by these amazing stories that they hear other photographers have, and they want to do that too. Because they don't have a strong why yet. They haven't figured out their why to then go out and find a way to make a difference with what resonates with their why. And once you have once you have figured this out with what Ronan has talked about with Simon Sinek, and you have your solid why, then when you go out and listen to different things, you can figure out how you can make a difference to people which resonates with you. And that's when success happens. But you can't have someone else's why.
Absolutely, Jeanine. And, like Sinek talks about, you should lead with, I believe, so if I'm talking to a photographer and I'm talking to a boudoir photographer and they say to me that, my clients want to regain their confidence because they've lost their confidence. But then if I talk to a photographer and they say to me, I believe that every woman deserves to be loved and be able to love for the woman she truly is and have the confidence to know that she deserves to be loved and loved for who she is. That's completely different than saying, I believe every woman should feel confident. It's different. And we had this conversation earlier about a mentor call I had with a member this morning. And they were confused in their business that they thought the one avatar was built around confidence, right? When they actually had two separate avatars where the top level problem was confidence, but the cause of that lack of confidence were completely different things. So he needed to separate out his avatars so that when he's creating his marketing and creating his messaging and creating everything Jeanine talked about that they do for their first birthdays, that it's more likely to connect with that avatar. So it is an interesting question, Jonathan, because we see it all the time. We see photographers saying, oh, look at the photographer down the road is my competition, giving everything away for nothing. They're not your competition. You're your competition. Your head is your competition. Your strategy is your competition. You just haven't sat down and discovered how you can use the art and science of photography to make a difference to people, to be a difference maker to them, so that they want to spend money with you to solve a problem they have and are happy to do so. And I understand the complication of it because I don't know, Brad, you put a figure on it, but 98% of our industry just have not even discovered this yet.
Yeah. I suppose they're broad brushstrokes of statistical analysis, but from all the photographers I speak to, I know very few that know their true reason for why they're doing it. And that's nothing to do, that isn't just photography.
So Brad, to help people with this, so should I tell them about the Mifki?
You should tell them about the Mifki.
Ronan was too quick there. I was trying to think of something really clever, but ruined now. Go on. Go on. Tell them about the Mifki.
Okay, if you want to stop being a headless chicken, then the Mifki can help you do that. The Mifki is probably the closest thing you'll get to a silver bullet when it comes to attracting and booking in your ideal clients. So what is the Mifki? The Mifki stands for Most Incredible Free Gift Ever, and we have the most incredible free gift ever for you today. So we have identified 3 different success factors, the 3 success factors about why our members are so successful at not only becoming fully booked, but attracting and booking in high-paying clients, running successful businesses, and being consistently successful in the long term without being headless chickens. So those are: 1, you need a marketing strategy that works. 2, you need access to expert coaches and mentors. And 3, you need a supportive community that can help you in those more challenging times when you encounter obstacles. We want to give all 3 of those things to you today, lifetime access for free. We're giving you access to our Fully Booked Challenge online course, which shows you how to implement our marketing strategy. We're giving you access to a weekly live call with the Fully Booked Photographer Mentor team on Zoom. And we're giving you access to our Fully Booked Challenge community. Lifetime access to all of those 3 things for free when you say maybe and when you test drive the AI-powered Fully Booked engine. So when you sign up for a 30-day free trial of the AI-powered Fully Booked engine, which is the best software in the photographic industry for your marketing, for your sales, for running your business, we are going to give you all of that for free. How amazing is that? That's next level, Ron.
It absolutely is, Jonathan. And I was trying to think of something clever to say. And for once, I'm struggling. I was going to ask Brad, would he prefer to be a headless chicken or a headless turkey? But there's no point in asking him that because you don't need to be either. All you have to do is click on the link and go to the Mifki.
All right, guys. That was a very interesting session. It nearly went down a really interesting rabbit hole with the 2 philosophers on the team, thinking about dentists and photographers. But maybe that's the podcast episode for another day. Quite fascinating. But thank you, Brad, Jeanine, and Ronan, for today. That's it for this podcast. Bye for now.
Bye for now.
See you later, everybody. And my answer would have been chicken.